Hello. All right, so we're gonna do Meet the Masters again. This is Leonardo da Vinci for the beginners. This is kinder and first. I would recommend, it's an easy project still, but I would recommend maybe doing it at the same time with the kiddos, putting it up on the board and then going step by step with them, or doing it all at once and then let them follow behind you. So you'll have your supplies all set up and ready. We're just using construction paper, a brown marker, some Q-tips, a glue stick, and you'll get a little cup of water. So we'll go ahead and get started. You're going to look at your white piece of paper and you're going to look at the center. Imagine where the center is and come up maybe about 3 fingers, and we'll make a little dot here. And then the first thing we're gonna do is make a hat. You'll have all of your drawing ideas in your bin, so you'll see where I'm coming from with the hat. You can picture it like a banana or a piece of bread, but this is going to be the hat that most men wore back in Leonardo da Vinci's day. Now you're going to come through and you're gonna make a hat band, and I like to come in right about here and then right about over here, and then we're going to connect those lines like so. And the next thing we're going to do is make the floppy portion of the hat, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can wiggle it around, make it look however you want, and then that's it. The next thing that we want to do is make some sort of design on the hat band itself. The goal is no solid colors, so we're going to do some patterns with the kiddos, and again, on the sheets that you have, you'll have different kind of patterns that they can choose from. So we'll just do something really quick here. And again, no solid coloring. You'll see why at the end when we're done. We'll just make a little pattern. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to focus on the beginning of the face. So back in Leonardo da Vinci's time, the men wore long hair. They'd have long hair and long beards. So I'd take a little guideline of where the band on the hat is, and then we can start a hairline for this person. Same thing, we'll come over here and we'll bring it down like they have their long hair. The next step you're gonna do, we're gonna be working on the facial features. If we look somewhere in the middle and then come up just a little bit, we can put a little dot, and then maybe a finger below that, we can do another dot. And then we can just do a line for the person's mouth. And if we measure about 3 fingers up, we can put another little dot, and this is going to be the beginning of the eyebrows and the nose for the facial features. So we're going to draw a line down and do a regular L for the nose, and then we're going to start with the eyebrow. And you can tell the kiddos that they're drawing kind of like a rainbow, I guess you could call it, and you want to do your best to make them equal. And for the beginner lesson, they're just going to do eyes closed. So now we're going to do small upside down rainbow. And that's the beginning of our face. The next thing we're going to do, because most men back in this time period had beards and mustaches, we're going to start with a mustache. And we can just do some vertical dashes here to start with the mustache. We're going to bring it up into the hairline, but we want to make sure we leave the cheeks hairless. So we can bring it down a little bit, come up, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then same thing, we'll bring this down a little bit and come up into the hairline. And now we'll make the long hair, and they can make it straight, they can make it wavy, they can make it curly, whatever they feel like. We do want him to have a little beard here, and we want to make sure that we leave a space for his mouth. And then we'll bring the hair down. This will take a few minutes so we can talk about Leonardo da Vinci. And he lived until he was 64 years old, which is very long for that time period. And most people know his work with the Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. And we'll continue making the hair. And then when they're satisfied, with their hair, here comes the fun part for the kiddos. So we'll get that started. The next thing they're gonna do is take the Q-tip and they're gonna dip it into their cup of water. And this is where we can say that we're now turning the marker into paint. So again, we make sure that our Q-tip is nice and wet, and then we trace our lines back over where we were. We don't want our paper to get too wet, but we want it wet enough that the marker begins to look like a watercolor. And then we just trace our lines. And then we're giving some shade and contrast to our picture. And then just tell them that they can follow the lines that they drew. Turning the marker into paint. And if one end gets too saturated, they can just flip it over and use the other side. And then we'll just go through all the way. And bring it all the way down. And again, you don't want your paper too wet that it begins to tear, but you want to make sure that they have enough water so it starts to give it some contrast, and they can bring it down a little bit, they can bring it in, however they want. And then when they're done, and this is dry, you can have the kiddos take their scissors and we can trim it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll trim it around and go all the way around up top. And the next thing what we'll do is we're going to put it on our black construction paper. And you can do a little bit more when you're actually in the classroom to make sure it's all sealed down. That is it. That is the Leonardo da Vinci learning how to do a self-portrait. Thanks so much.